It is early evening and I welcome everyone back to our channel. To those returning viewers who have faithfully followed our journey through chilling historical mysteries, I'm grateful for your continued support. If you're new here, I'm your host, and this is where we delve deep into some of the most perplexing true crime stories from the past century. We upload daily, so remember to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications if you don't want to miss any of our upcoming investigations. Your subscription not only helps this channel grow, but also ensures that we can continue providing in-depth accounts, interviews, and expert commentary on cases that still leave us puzzled after decades. Today, we revisit a case that shook the American Midwest to its core in the summer of 1954, the murder of Marilyn Sheppard and the subsequent suspicion surrounding her husband, Dr. Sam Sheppard. As we step back into that humid Ohio morning, we enter a world of respectable suburban facades, carefully manicured lawns, and a small community's trust suddenly shattered. This story is not just about a crime. It's about shifting perceptions, media influence, and the quiet cracks that can form beneath the surface of an ordinary life. Let's begin. It is July 4, 1954, just before dawn, and the small lakeside village of Bay Village, Ohio, sits beneath a heavy blanket of humid summer air. The sky is still deep blue, with the first threads of light weaving through distant clouds. A faint rustle comes from the old trees lining Lake Road, their leaves stirring in the lightest breeze. The Sheppard home, a modest yet comfortable two-story house overlooking Lake Erie, stands silent and still. Through the front windows one can almost feel the hush of a sleeping family, a peace that should accompany a holiday morning. Inside, delicate floral wallpaper, meticulously arranged furniture, and neatly stacked medical journals in the study give the impression of a serene, well-ordered life. At approximately 5:30 a.m., that illusion begins to splinter. A muffled thump resonates upstairs. Minutes later, a desperate sound, something between a moan and a cry, briefly breaks the morning silence. Then, an unsettling quiet settles back in. Outside, the neighborhood remains calm. Neighbors will later say they slept through it all. But within those walls, fate has just unleashed a dreadful turn. Only hours later will the world learn that Marilyn Sheppard, a woman known for her kindness, loyalty, and gentle spirit, is no longer alive. Before the events of that morning, Marilyn's night unfolds in seemingly ordinary fashion. Earlier that evening, on July 3, several friends recall seeing Marilyn at a neighborhood gathering to celebrate the holiday weekend. She is dressed in a simple summer dress with floral prints, her smile as warm as the late afternoon sun. By 7 p.m., she and Sam return home, where they dine quietly in a light meal of grilled chicken and fresh lettuce from their backyard garden. Marilyn places a call to a family friend around 8:15 p.m., confirming plans for the following weekend's dinner party. At 9 p.m., she puts some letters on the corner of the hall table, intending to mail them on Monday. By 9:30 p.m., neighbors recall seeing a light in the Sheppard living room as Marilyn reads a novel. Around 10 p.m., the Sheppard's dog barks at something outside, and Marilyn steps onto the porch, looking briefly at the lake, then returns indoors. At approximately 11 p.m., a nurse from Sam's hospital tries calling to confirm a patient's status, but there is no answer. A passing acquaintance driving along Lake Road at midnight remembers seeing the upstairs light on, possibly Marilyn reading in bed. By 12:30 a.m., no further witnesses can confirm activity. Sometime after midnight, Marilyn presumably falls asleep. She is 3 months pregnant, and neighbors know she tends to retire early to rest. Her last known interaction is that quiet moment on her porch, scanning the still waters of Lake Erie, utterly unaware of the storm soon to rage inside her home. By the time first concern arises, it's nearly 6 a.m. on July 4. Sam Sheppard bursts into a neighbor's residence, shirt torn and speech slurred, claiming someone has attacked his wife. He seems disoriented, repeatedly muttering, "Help her, please help her." The neighbor, startled from a holiday slumber, immediately contacts the local police. Officers, still groggy from the early hour, arrive at the Sheppard home just after 6:15 a.m. Inside, they find a scene of chaos in the bedroom. Marilyn's lifeless body lies sprawled across the bed, blood staining the crisp white sheets in the nearby walls. A bedroom lamp rests awkwardly on the floor, its shade bent and askew. Drawers seem hastily opened, their contents scattered. The responding patrolman, still new to the force, radios for backup and medical support. Another neighbor, Dr. Richard Merrill, is summoned, but it is too late. As more officers filter into the silent house, Sam appears dazed, sitting on a hallway chair, clutching his head and repeating that he saw a form or a shadowy figure. The first official statements are made. Contact is established with the local coroner's office. Within the hour, the medical examiner and a small cadre of detectives arrive. The atmosphere inside the home is tense, thickened by the humid Ohio air, and the sudden realization that what began as a quiet holiday morning has become a front-page story in the making. Marilyn Sheppard is born into a loving middle-class family in Cleveland, Ohio, in 1929. Her father, Harold, works as a local accountant, and her mother, Elaine, is a devoted homemaker. Marilyn grows up in a modest home of soft pastel walls and old wooden floors, where laughter and conversation are constants at the dinner table. As a child, Marilyn is known for her curiosity. She spends hours curled up with library books, fascinated by the world beyond her backyard fence. Her parents encourage this love of learning, enrolling her in community art classes and summer reading clubs. By her teenage years, Marilyn has developed a gentle confidence. She attends a local public high school, where she excels in literature and history. While not the most outgoing student, she forms a close-knit group of friends who appreciate her listening ear and warm presence. She plays volleyball, volunteers at the local youth center, and occasionally babysits for neighbors. Life for Marilyn is stable and kind, painted in hues of trust and easy laughter. After graduating high school in 1947, she briefly considers becoming a teacher. Instead, she enters a secretarial program that promises solid skills, steady employment, and a chance for independence. She thrives in an environment where organization and attention to detail come naturally to her. After completing her program, she works as a secretary at a law firm in downtown Cleveland. The work is steady, if not particularly stimulating, but it suits Marilyn well. She is punctual, meticulous, and polite. Her co-workers admire her calm demeanor and her ability to diffuse tension with a sympathetic tilt of the head or a kind word. She dreams of a future that includes marriage, children, and a comfortable home. Her ambitions are modest but heartfelt. A family of her own, a space filled with love, and the chance to continue learning and growing as an individual. In 1949, Marilyn meets Sam Sheppard at a community event near Lake Erie. Sam, a young physician with a promising future, is charming and driven. He captivates Marilyn with stories of medical school nights, the rigors of hospital rotations, and his dreams of improving patient care. The two fall in love swiftly. Their courtship is tender, late-night walks along the lake, Sunday dinners with each other's families, and quiet evenings reading together. By 1951, they marry, merging Marilyn's quiet steadiness with Sam's energetic ambition. Soon after, Sam establishes his practice in Bay Village, where the Sheppards settle into a comfortable home. Marilyn embraces the role of a supportive wife, confident that together they can build a fulfilling life. Marilyn is proud of her husband's career and supports him wholeheartedly. She is known around town as Dr. Sheppard's devoted partner, often helping organize patient files at home, sending out holiday cards to patients, or ensuring the home is a sanctuary for Sam after long hospital shifts. While she does not abandon her desire for personal growth, her life increasingly orbits around Sam's demanding schedule. Her aspirations evolve. Now she hopes to become a wonderful mother and maintain a warm household that friends and family can call a second home. Marilyn's family ties remain strong. Though her parents still live in Cleveland, they visit often, driving out to Bay Village on Sundays. Marilyn's sister Grace lives in a nearby suburb, and the two talk regularly. Family dinners are filled with laughter, gentle teasing, and recipes passed down through generations. Marilyn's father occasionally reminds her that he is proud of her strength and kindness. Her parents adore Sam, who charms them with medical anecdotes and reassurances that he will always care for their daughter. In recent months, with Marilyn's pregnancy confirmed, her family's excitement surges. They plan baby showers, quietly debate baby names, and stockpile small gifts, crocheted blankets, picture books, and soft stuffed animals. Marilyn's mother is thrilled at the thought of becoming a grandmother. On the last family gathering, just 2 weeks before the tragedy, Marilyn's parents recall how radiant she looked, her hand gently resting on her growing belly, her eyes shining with hope. Marilyn maintains close friendships with a group of neighbors and old classmates who have also settled in the greater Cleveland area. She meets them once a week for a bridge game at a friend's home or for tea at a local cafe. They talk about their husbands' careers, home improvement plans, and the latest fashions. Marilyn's interests extend beyond the home. She loves going to the cinema, taking short walks along the lakefront, and attending church socials. She is not one to gossip, but she listens well and offers sound advice. Her social circle finds her the perfect confidant, someone who honors privacy and maintains discretion. On weekends, she enjoys leisurely lunches with friends, browsing through local shops for a new summer dress or attending a garden club meeting. She tends to her own small flower garden in the backyard and likes reading travel magazines that feature far-off places like Paris and Rome. While Marilyn seldom travels, she imagines one day visiting Europe with Sam, showing their child the art, history, and culture of distant lands. For now, her peaceful existence in Bay Village seems perfect. On July 3, 1954, the day before Independence Day, Marilyn wakes early. The summer sun streams through the light cotton curtains of her bedroom. It is around 7:30 a.m., and the air carries the scent of fresh water drifting in from Lake Erie. Marilyn adjusts her position in bed, mindful of her growing pregnancy. She heads downstairs to prepare a light breakfast. Oatmeal with a drizzle of honey and a cup of black tea. Sam has left early for the hospital to check on a patient. Marilyn's routine is tranquil. She spends the morning tidying the living room, dusting shelves, placing fresh roses in a vase on the dining table. She hums softly as she works, a tune from the radio she heard last week. Shortly before 9 a.m., Marilyn receives a phone call from a friend confirming their attendance at a neighbor's holiday gathering in the afternoon. She makes a brief grocery run to a local shop around 10:30 a.m., where the clerk, Mrs. Thompson, greets her cheerfully. Marilyn purchases a few essentials, fresh bread, fruit, and a bottle of lemonade for that evening. By noon, she is back home, preparing a small salad for lunch, and reading mail that includes a letter from her sister Grace. In the letter, Grace mentions looking forward to seeing Marilyn next week. By mid-afternoon, Marilyn has dressed in a light summer skirt and blouse, her hair pinned back. She joins Sam at a neighborhood Independence Day gathering just a few streets away. There, from about 3 p.m. until 6 p.m., neighbors recall seeing the couple chatting amicably, sipping lemonade under a willow tree, and watching children play with sparklers. Marilyn laughs easily, her hand occasionally resting on her belly. She discusses the baby's due date with a friend, excited by the prospect of motherhood. After returning home at around 7 p.m., Marilyn sets a quiet dinner, broiled chicken and garden salad. She and Sam speak about mundane matters, a repair needed on the front porch railing, an upcoming family visit, and the patient Sam has been treating for a persistent chest infection. The evening passes gently. At about 8:15 p.m., Marilyn phones her friend Alice to confirm dinner plans for next weekend. By 9 p.m., neighbors see the living room light on. Marilyn flips through a magazine, occasionally glancing outside at the darkening sky. At around 10 p.m., the dog's brief barking spell is the last recorded neighborhood disturbance. Marilyn steps out for a moment, gazes at the quiet street, then slips back inside. From approximately 10:30 p.m. to midnight, there are no confirmed sightings. The Sheppard home is silent, with only faint light visible through the upstairs curtains. At midnight, a distant sound of fireworks echoes from across the bay. Inside, Marilyn likely prepares for bed, folding her clothes neatly and settling into sleep. As the clock moves towards the early hours of July 4, the hours vanish without witness. Marilyn does not make or receive any late-night calls. No one on the street reports unusual activity. Then, sometime before dawn, tragedy strikes. In the darkness there is a struggle. The exact timeline of events between midnight and 5 a.m. is murky at best. Some neighbors later claimed they heard faint noises, thumps or muffled cries, but dismissed them as distant fireworks or the sounds of holiday revelers returning late. Surveillance in 1954 is minimal. There are no home security systems or cameras on this quiet suburban street. However, the Sheppard's next-door neighbor, Mr. Fuller, awakens briefly at 4:45 a.m. to use the bathroom. Glancing outside, he sees nothing unusual. The streets are empty, lit by dim street lamps that cast long shadows on the pavement. Just after 5 a.m., a faint moan might have been heard. A paperboy passing along Lake Road at 5:15 a.m. notes that the Sheppard residence looks normal, curtains drawn. He notices no strange vehicles or figures lurking about. At 5:30 a.m., dawn breaks, casting a pale glow over the home. Inside, Marilyn's final moments have already passed. At 5:45 a.m., Sam Sheppard reportedly awakens, dazed and disoriented, claiming an intruder attacked him and his wife. He stumbles from the house, heading toward a neighbor's property, knocking urgently at the door. The neighbor, startled awake, opens it to find Sam in disarray, his shirt torn, a bruise forming near his left eye, his voice shaky. "Marilyn, she's hurt. She needs help," he stammers. The neighbor swiftly picks up the phone, contacting the local police dispatcher and explaining that something terrible has happened at the Sheppard home. As the first police officer arrives shortly after 6 a.m., he notices that the Sheppard residence appears calm on the exterior. The garden gate is latched, the driveway empty aside from the Sheppard sedan. Entering the home, the officer immediately senses something is very wrong. There is a disturbed energy in the air, an unspoken tension. He proceeds upstairs, where he finds Marilyn Sheppard's body. Shocked by the brutality, he radios for backup. Within minutes, additional units, the coroner and a detective team are en route. A small crowd of curious neighbors begin to gather on the street. The tranquility of their holiday morning is shattered by the sight of patrol cars and the whisper of death in their midst. Within the hour, the coroner pronounces Marilyn Sheppard dead. There is a subdued fury in the air as officers begin their preliminary inquiries. The rescue squad attempts to calm Sam, who appears groggy and speaks haltingly, describing a vague intruder who knocked him unconscious. The neighbors watch from a distance, some wiping tears from their eyes, others whispering prayers. The atmosphere of Bay Village, usually warm, neighborly, and safe, begins to shift into one of unease and suspicion. Marilyn Sheppard's past weaves together the threads of a quiet, compassionate life. Born into a stable Cleveland household, she learns kindness from her parents' gentle ways. Her childhood is marked by a thirst for knowledge, nurtured by local libraries and patient mentors. The 1930s and 1940s are challenging times for many families, but Marilyn's home is filled with love and understanding. As a teenager, she blossoms into a considerate young woman who values sincerity over flair, depth over superficiality. This foundation shapes her adult life, guiding her through professional roles as a secretary and personal roles as a spouse and soon-to-be mother. Her career path, though not grand, is steady. Working as a secretary in a Cleveland law firm, she hones her organizational skills, clarity of expression, and professionalism. Though she once toyed with the idea of teaching, she accepts her secretarial career as a comfortable fit. Her colleagues respect her diligence and pleasant demeanor. Later, after marrying Sam Sheppard, Marilyn pivots her focus. Supporting Sam's growing medical practice becomes her priority. She takes pride in helping keep the home running smoothly so that Sam can dedicate himself fully to his patients. She cherishes the idea of raising children in a loving environment, shaped by the values she herself learned at home. Her family life stands as a central pillar of her identity. Regular family gatherings, Sunday suppers, and heartfelt letters keep her close to her parents and siblings. She shares her joys and concerns openly, and they reciprocate with unwavering support. In recent months, the news of her pregnancy infuses these gatherings with excitement and anticipation. Marilyn's sister Grace sends her small gifts and notes of encouragement. Her parents, Harold and Elaine, are already envisioning spoiling their future grandchild. The Sheppard and her birth family blend traditions, holiday gatherings, cooking favorite childhood meals, and attending church services together. Outside the family circle, Marilyn's social world is centered on a group of longtime friends. They admire her quiet strengths and gentle humor. Her hobbies, gardening, reading, attending local bridge clubs, reflect her preference for calm and meaningful engagement over flamboyant socializing. On a given Tuesday afternoon, You might find Marilyn meeting a friend at a cafe near the shoreline, sipping tea, and discussing a new recipe she wants to try. She also invests time in small acts of kindness, dropping off a casserole at a neighbor's house when they're ill, knitting a scarf for a family friend going through a hard time. The day of the incident, July 4, 1954, breaks as any other humid Ohio morning. The birds sing outside the Sheppard home. Marilyn rises at her usual hour, around 7 a.m., feeling slightly more fatigued due to the pregnancy. She prepares a light breakfast, toast with butter and jam, a cup of tea. She arranges the kitchen, wipes the countertops, and sets aside a note reminding herself to mail some letters on Monday. The holiday brings a festive vibe to the neighborhood. Small American flags adorn front lawns, and neighbors anticipate fireworks later that evening. At 8:30 a.m., Marilyn steps outside briefly to pick some herbs from her small garden patch. She waves to Mrs. Fuller next door, who is watering her roses. By 9 a.m., Marilyn is reviewing the grocery list. Around 10 a.m., Sam leaves again for a short shift at the hospital, promising to be back by noon. Marilyn decides to pass the time by reading a few chapters of a new historical novel she borrowed from a friend. She sits in the living room's bay window, letting soft light fall across the pages. At around 11:30 a.m., Sam returns and they share a quiet midday meal, sandwiches and lemonade. They discuss the evening's neighborhood festivities. There will be a small barbecue at a friend's home, followed by a modest fireworks display visible from the lakefront. Marilyn looks forward to seeing friends and enjoying the mild entertainment. After cleaning up, they prepare to head out around 3 p.m. to the neighbors' gathering. There, Marilyn engages in light conversation, compliments a friend's potato salad, and listens attentively as another neighbor recounts a family trip. The afternoon passes pleasantly, and around 6 p.m. the Sheppards return home. From 7 p.m. onward, the atmosphere remains calm. Sam reads medical journals in the study while Marilyn finalizes dinner preparations. By 8:15 p.m., she has made a phone call confirming the next week's dinner plans. Close to 9 p.m., they share their simple meal, and Marilyn mentions feeling slightly tired, attributing it to the heat and her pregnancy. Sam offers to tidy up the kitchen while she rests in the living room, reading a magazine. The night seems utterly ordinary. No visitors, no pending conflicts, just the quiet hum of suburban life. As 10 p.m. passes, Marilyn goes upstairs to prepare for bed. She sets out a light summer nightgown, folds her day clothes neatly and brushes her hair. She hears the dog bark once, momentarily curious, but chalks it up to a stray cat or raccoon outside. She glances out the bedroom window, noticing the soft glow of streetlights reflecting on the still waters of Lake Erie. The world seems serene. It is what happens after midnight that cleaves her life in two: the mundane normalcy of a family evening versus the brutal horror that follows. Witness accounts from the late evening are scarce. Neighbors either sleep soundly or go out of town for the holiday. No one sees Marilyn after the dogs bark at 10 p.m. The final hours of her life remain a grim mystery. The only certainty is that between midnight and dawn, violence pierces the Sheppard home's tranquility. At approximately 2 a.m., a distant neighbor thinks he hears something, perhaps a low cry, but cannot be sure. Another neighbor, returning from a late movie around 2:30 a.m., notices nothing amiss, just a few porch lights flickering off as families settle in. By 3 a.m., Bay Village is in deep slumber, the kind of silence that makes any disturbance notable. Yet no one definitively reports suspicious activity. At 4 a.m., Sam might be sleeping soundly in the master bedroom's adjoining twin bed. Marilyn likely sleeps as well, unaware of any looming threat. Documents later show no phone calls, no radio broadcasts, nothing that might hint at the tragedy to come. By 5 a.m., the night's calm gives way to a crime scene. Marilyn's life ends violently in her bedroom, the exact sequence of events uncertain. Sam claims to have been attacked as well, knocked unconscious, waking to find his wife gravely injured. The police respond promptly after Sam alerts a neighbor. They arrive to a disordered scene, blood spatter on the walls, furniture upturned, personal items strewn about. Medical experts will later detail injuries that suggest a fierce, rage-driven assault. Authorities fan out, questioning neighbors and searching the surrounding properties. Within hours, Bay Village's small police department mobilizes. Officers cordon off the Sheppard home, carefully preserving evidence. They photograph the crime scene, documenting every detail: the angle of her body, the state of the bedclothes, the pattern of blood drops. They find her watch and rings undisturbed, suggesting robbery may not be the primary motive. Meanwhile, outside, television crews and newspaper reporters begin to arrive. They hover near the police tape, hungry for any detail. In 1954, such a brutal murder in a quiet lakeside community is sensational news. Marilyn's body is removed for autopsy by 10 a.m., and investigators comb the property. They seek footprints, fingerprints, any sign of forced entry. A few smudged prints and some suspicious marks near the lake's edge raise immediate questions. Authorities contact local hospitals and clinics to see if any strange patient has turned up with cuts or bruises consistent with a violent struggle. They also check with the Harbor Patrol, concerned that a killer might have fled by boat. The initial inquiry focuses on the immediate vicinity. Officers knock on neighbors' doors, asking if anyone saw or heard something, anything out of place. "I heard a noise around dawn," one elderly neighbor says, "but I thought it was fireworks." Another neighbor claims to have seen a figure moving by the lake, but cannot provide a detailed description. The tension is palpable as the police attempt to piece together a puzzle with missing corners. Back at the station, detectives spread out documents on a long wooden table: sketches of the crime scene, a rough timeline of Marilyn's last known movements, and early reports from the coroner's office. They note Marilyn's pregnancy, her stable home life, and the lack of any known enemies. They flag the fact that Sam Sheppard is a respected local doctor, a figure well regarded in the community. Yet they cannot ignore that statistically, in domestic homicides, spouses are often primary suspects. The first hours of any murder investigation are critical, and Bay Village's police know they need to act swiftly. They examine every room of the Sheppard home: the study, the kitchen, the guest room, the basement. They gather clothing, linens, and personal effects for analysis. In this era, forensic science is limited compared to today's standards, but they still look for blood types, fibers, and any unusual hairs or footprints. As the investigation begins, the public swiftly becomes engaged. The story hits local radio by noon. By the afternoon, Cleveland newspapers carry bold headlines: "Doctor's wife murdered in Bay Village." The suburban calm is shattered as reporters descend, interviewing anyone who will talk. The community is shocked. Many refuse to believe that something so horrific could happen in their well-manicured enclave. Some whisper dark suspicions. Others remain resolute in their faith that the police will find the truth. Simultaneously, relatives of Marilyn and Sam arrive, grief-stricken and bewildered. They speak softly to investigators, providing character references, insights into their daily lives. The Sheppard family's distress is genuine and raw. Marilyn's parents are devastated, struggling to comprehend that their daughter is gone. They stand outside the yellow police tape, tears in their eyes, arms around each other, waiting for answers that may never fully come. In the days following the murder, the media transforms the investigation into a spectacle. Newspapers run front-page stories featuring photographs of the Sheppard home and the smiling face of Marilyn. Radio commentators speculate on possible motives. Rumors swirl. Some claim Dr. Sam Sheppard had been seeing another woman, hinting at jealousy or a heated argument gone wrong. Others propose that a random intruder broke in. Community members debate theories in hushed tones over backyard fences and at local diners. As detectives push forward, they find themselves bombarded with tips, many false. Some claim to have seen suspicious strangers lurking near the Sheppard home weeks earlier. Others recall unusual telephone calls or strange knocks at their doors. Sorting through these leads demands patience and skill. Investigators prioritize verifying Sam's account of events. They examine his injuries, check the state of the house, and consider the plausibility of an intruder. The search for physical evidence intensifies. They comb through Marilyn's correspondence, interview her friends and neighbors about any recent tensions or concerns she might have expressed. They talk to Sam's colleagues at the hospital, looking for insights into their marriage. Early on, one piece of information emerges that will change the investigation's tenor: rumors of an affair involving Dr. Sam Sheppard. It is the kind of revelation that the media seizes with gusto, painting Sam not as a grieving widower, but as a potential killer. Within weeks, the investigation gathers momentum. Forensic tests identify certain blood types, and while not definitive, these tests provide clues. Witness statements are compiled into thick folders, and detectives mark dates and times on a large calendar pinned to a station wall. Every detail is considered significant: the positioning of Marilyn's body, the absence of Sam's torn shirt, and the presence of Sam's torn shirt. Television stations, though still in their relative infancy as mass media powerhouses, jump on the story. They run segments showing the quiet suburban streets, the Sheppard home framed by blooming summer flowers. The contrast between the setting's peaceful appearance and the violent act committed there unsettles viewers. People who have never heard of Bay Village suddenly know its name. Family members plead through the press for any information that might lead to the killer's capture. They emphasize Marilyn's gentle spirit, insisting she had no enemies. The community responds with candlelight vigils and prayer meetings. Concerned citizens write letters to the police chief, offering support or suggesting investigative avenues. Yet beneath the surface, tensions rise. Some begin to suspect Sam, others maintain his innocence. His stoic demeanor and sometimes curt interactions with reporters raise eyebrows. The affair rumor grows louder, and public judgment begins to tilt. Over the next few weeks and months, breaks in the investigation appear. A critical forensic report, a re-evaluation of the timeline, the discovery of previously overlooked evidence, and the corroboration or contradiction of witness accounts all come into play. Detectives work closely with experts, including forensic pathologists who re-examine the autopsy results, criminal psychologists who profile the potential killer, and laboratory technicians who scour fibers and hair samples for matches. By August 1954, investigators identify a key piece of evidence: a blood pattern inconsistent with initial assumptions. This leads them to consider new angles, prompting them to re-interview certain witnesses. They obtain telephone records, scrutinize personal letters, and question hospital staff who might have noticed suspicious behavior by Sam or others. A criminologist from a nearby university offers analytical support, examining the geometry of the blood spatter, the trajectory of the blows that killed Marilyn. As more details emerge, suspicion begins to circle Sam Sheppard more tightly. Detectives note that his account of events varies slightly between retellings. They learn more about his rumored affair with a former lab technician, Susan Hayes, who worked alongside him at the hospital. To the press, this is gasoline thrown on a fire of speculation. In the public imagination, jealousy and infidelity become plausible motives. Soon, Sam's image as a dedicated husband and healer is overshadowed by a narrative of secret trysts and moral compromise. Yet the investigation is no smooth path. It encounters challenges at every turn. Technical limitations of 1950s forensic science hinder definitive conclusions. Resource constraints mean that officers work overtime, sifting through piles of documents in a cramped station office. The lack of modern DNA testing and advanced photographic techniques leaves some questions lingering. Communication across jurisdictions between the mainstream media and the community, the police, has been regularly delayed. The Cleveland PD, county offices, and state authorities occasionally slows progress. Timelines are juggled repeatedly as investigators try to pinpoint the exact moment the crime occurred. There are questions about the chain of custody for certain pieces of evidence, and whispers that the initial crime scene may have been compromised by too many onlookers. The local lab technicians struggle with rudimentary equipment. Still, the team perseveres, determined to unearth the truth. They recheck alibis, analyze hair samples under magnifying glasses, and re-examine footprints found near the lake's edge. Even the smallest discrepancy can be critical. By late fall, a suspect emerges fully into the investigative spotlight: Dr. Sam Sheppard himself. Investigators learn of his background: a promising doctor, a scion of a respected medical family, successful in his career but perhaps struggling in his marriage. They uncover more details about the affair with Susan Hayes, now confirmed through her testimony. There is no previous criminal record for Sam, but the psychological profile suggests someone who might have felt cornered by personal issues, marital tension, and the prospect of a baby on the way. Behavioral experts weigh in, analyzing the crime's brutality. While some experts argue that the randomness of the violence points to an intruder, Others contend that it suggests a crime of passion, often perpetrated by someone close to the victim. Sam's demeanor is scrutinized, his flat affect during interviews, his occasional defensiveness, and his reluctance to share details about his private life. Combined with the affair and inconsistencies in his story, these factors cause the investigators to focus on him more intensely. To complicate matters, Sam Sheppard remains well-connected. He has lawyers, supportive family members, and colleagues who vouch for his character. This is not an easy target for the police. Bringing charges against him means carefully assembling a case that can withstand the scrutiny of both the court and the public. The officers understand they must proceed methodically, gathering as much evidence as possible before making an arrest. Time after time they run into dead ends or conflicting witness accounts. Some neighbors describe the Sheppards as the perfect couple, while others hint at quiet tension. Investigation files swell with interviews, laboratory reports, correspondence logs, and court order requests. The workload is immense, the pressure intense. Meanwhile, the media fuels public fascination. Public opinion begins to polarize. Some see Sam as a victim of circumstance. Others believe he is a cunning killer, hiding behind professional respectability. In constructing a perpetrator profile, experts examine Sam's history. Born into a family of physicians, Sam grows up steeped in privilege and expectation. He attends a reputable medical school, excelling in coursework and clinical rotations. By the early 1950s, he has a promising career, a comfortable home, and social status in Bay Village. He is admired for his skill in the operating room and commended for his bedside manner. Patients trust him, colleagues respect him, yet beneath the surface, investigators suspect a man grappling with more than the stress of a medical career. They find that Sam's social circle is wide. He attends medical conferences, belongs to a local tennis club, and occasionally hosts dinner parties. Neighbors describe him as polite but somewhat aloof. He is not known for public displays of affection or warm greetings. Instead, he maintains a calm professionalism, even outside the hospital. His educational background is impeccable. Graduation from a top-tier medical program, residency at a reputable institution, and steady employment at a local hospital. He has no known mental health issues, but the stressors of a busy practice and a tumultuous personal life may have contributed to psychological strain. Behaviorally, experts note patterns that raise suspicions. If he is guilty, they theorize, he might have acted in a moment of heightened emotion, possibly triggered by an argument with Marilyn about the affair. The violence of the murder is simply too much for someone who behaved like this. A fact that is so detailed and unrestrained fits a scenario of personal rage rather than a calculated break-in. Another angle is that if he is innocent, the murderer might be someone familiar with the Sheppard home or with their routine, making the crime appear oddly personal. However, without additional strong leads pointing to an outsider, the focus stays on Sam. Psychological assessments suggest a man who might have struggled with the pressure of maintaining a perfect public image while wrestling with private indiscretions. If Marilyn confronted him about the affair, tensions could have exploded. Under stress, even reasonable individuals can commit desperate acts. Profilers warn that not every killer fits a neat psychological box, but certain elements, an affair, a pregnancy, career pressures, create a plausible scenario in which Sam, cornered by life's complexities, lashes out violently. In the aftermath of the crime, Sam's actions are also scrutinized. After Marilyn's death, he appears erratic and vague. He changes certain details of his account, fails to remember crucial moments, and seems more concerned with how he is portrayed publicly than with cooperating fully in the investigation. He does not flee, but he does hire an attorney swiftly and refuses certain lines of questioning. Investigators note these behaviors in their files as potentially indicative of guilt, or perhaps simply a man reeling from tragedy and distrustful of a system that seems to target him. Tracking Sam's movements after the crime provides little clarity. He stays mostly at home or with family, avoiding the public eye whenever possible. He shows up at the hospital occasionally, attempting to keep a semblance of normalcy, but colleagues sense his tension. He makes no known attempt to leave town or alter his identity, though he does reach out to legal counsel and public relations experts who advise him on handling the intense media scrutiny. Investigators also examine his digital footprint at limited as it is in the 1950s. There are phone records to consider, letters to review, but no emails or social media, of course. They comb through correspondence with Susan Hayes, noting affectionate tones and planned meetings. While these letters do not prove murder, they establish motive and opportunity. Witnesses recall seeing Sam and Susan together at out-of-town medical events. A pattern of deception emerges, planting seeds of doubt about Sam's honesty. By the time authorities feel confident enough to bring charges, they believe they have assembled a circumstantial but compelling case. On a warm afternoon in late 1954, they arrive at the Sheppard home with an arrest warrant. Sam does not resist. He is booked at the local station, fingerprinted, photographed, and placed into custody pending arraignment. The charges: second-degree murder of Marilyn Sheppard. The public is stunned. Some express relief, believing that the police have caught the right man. Others are outraged, insisting Sam is being railroaded by a media-frenzied investigation. Sam's family stands by him, hiring a respected defense attorney to contest the charges. Journalists descend once again, snapping photographs of Sam being led in handcuffs, publishing headlines that fuel water-cooler discussions and dinner-table arguments across America. The legal process begins with initial hearings in a Cleveland courtroom. Sam, wearing a pressed suit and holding a stoic expression, pleads not guilty. His attorney requests bail, citing his medical practice and family ties. The prosecution argues he is a flight risk or poses a danger to the community. The judge sets a moderate bail and Sam returns home while awaiting trial. But he is not free from scrutiny. Every step he takes, every word he utters, is filtered through a legal lens. The trial itself, which commences in early 1955, becomes a media circus. Courtroom sketch artists capture the tension, Sam seated at the defense table, prosecutors laying out their case piece by piece, witnesses nervously approaching the stand. The prosecution introduces evidence of the affair, suggesting a motive rooted in jealousy or fear of marital collapse. They present forensic findings: blood spatters consistent with someone close to Marilyn, inconsistent statements from Sam, and expert testimony questioning the plausibility of an unknown intruder. The defense counters vigorously. They argue that the police rushed to judgment, that evidence is circumstantial, that no murder weapon was definitively tied to Sam. They call into question the thoroughness of the crime scene investigation, pointing to possible contamination and lost evidence. Witnesses testify that the Sheppards were a loving couple and that Sam was devoted to Marilyn. The defense emphasizes that Sam suffered injuries that morning, suggesting he too was attacked. Key testimonies come from the coroner, forensic analysts, and Sam's alleged mistress. Susan Hayes takes the stand, acknowledging the affair but also stating that Sam spoke of Marilyn with respect. He never threatened violence. The jury listens intently, weighing the credibility of each witness, each piece of evidence. Public opinion sways back and forth as newspapers print daily recaps and radio broadcasts dissect the proceedings. After weeks of testimony, closing arguments begin. The prosecution paints a picture of a respected doctor, driven to a desperate act by secrets and betrayal. The defense insists that the state has no direct evidence tying Sam to the crime, no eyewitnesses, and no murder weapon conclusively identified. They highlight the possibility of an intruder slipping in by the lakefront, committing the crime and escaping unseen. The jury deliberates for days. The nation waits. Finally, they return to the courtroom, solemn-faced. The judge asks if they have reached a verdict. They have. In a measured, clear voice, the jury foreman announces, "Guilty of second-degree murder." The courtroom erupts in gasps and murmurs. The judge sets a sentencing date, and a few weeks later, Sam Sheppard receives a sentence of life imprisonment, a fate that sends shockwaves through his family and supporters. The sentencing hearing includes impact statements. Marilyn's family tearfully addresses the court, sharing their profound grief and the void left by Marilyn's absence. They talk of holidays forever changed, of a grandchild they will never meet. Sam's defense team vows to appeal, insisting that errors in the trial process and intense media prejudice prevented a fair outcome. The aftermath of the conviction ripples through the Sheppard family, the community, and beyond. Marilyn's parents struggle to accept that their daughter's husband could have done this. They must navigate their grief under a spotlight they never sought. Their home becomes quieter, emptier. Friends and neighbors provide support, arranging meals, offering shoulders to cry on. But the pain is deep and enduring. In the community, fear and mistrust linger. If a well-regarded doctor could commit such a crime, what does that say about the village's values and safety? Some residents organize neighborhood watches, lock their doors more often, and become suspicious of strangers. Others find ways to remember Marilyn, planting a memorial garden near the church she attended, establishing a small scholarship fund in her name for local girls pursuing secretarial studies or nursing careers. Over time, the community tries to heal. Local businesses sponsor self-defense workshops, and the police department reviews its protocols for handling major crimes. Journalistic ethics come under scrutiny as well. Many believe that the media's sensational coverage tainted the jury pool, prompting calls for reforms in how the press interacts with criminal cases. The legal landscape also shifts. The Sheppard trial becomes a case study in how media attention can influence judicial proceedings. In later years, legal scholars debate the fairness of Sam's trial, and subsequent appeals bring the case back into the public eye. Eventually, after nearly a decade, Sam Sheppard's conviction is overturned, and he is acquitted in a retrial. But that is another chapter in the history of this case, one that emerges long after the immediate shock of Marilyn's death and the initial verdict. For now, in 1955, the impact on the Sheppard family and Marilyn's loved ones is devastating. They struggle through holidays and birthdays, each passing milestone a reminder of what they lost. Grief counselors and religious leaders offer comfort, though no words can fully ease the pain. The extended family becomes more tightly knit, supporting one another through the ordeal. Over time, they learn to cope, to remember Marilyn's kindness, and to honor her memory with quiet acts of love and community service. In Bay Village, the murder leaves a permanent mark. The once carefree community invests more in public safety, working with local officials to install better lighting on streets and encourage residents to report suspicious activities. Churches hold regular memorials for victims of violent crime, and a local chapter of Victims of Crime support group is established, offering resources to those who suffer traumatic losses. Residents share Marilyn's story as a cautionary tale, not to frighten but to educate. It serves as a reminder that tragedy can strike anywhere, even in the most peaceful neighborhoods. The lasting changes from this case extend beyond Bay Village. The case eventually influences discussions about media coverage in high-profile trials, contributing to changes in jury selection procedures and the standards for granting changes of venue. Awareness campaigns stress the importance of unbiased reporting, the need for preserving evidence meticulously, and the critical role of fair trials. Legislative efforts emerge aimed at protecting a defendant's right to a fair trial from excessive media interference. Such reforms, years in the making, trace their roots to the Sheppard case and others like it. Public understanding of criminal justice, forensic science, and the legal system evolves over time, informed by mistakes and lessons of the past. In the decades following the conviction, legal textbooks referenced the Sheppard trial as a pivotal moment in American jurisprudence, one that highlighted the delicate balance between free press and fair trial, between community safety and individual rights. As we bring this narrative to a close, we must acknowledge its complexity. Marilyn Sheppard's life and death remain a central chapter in the annals of American true crime. Dr. Sam Sheppard's conviction and eventual exoneration become a case study in shifting public opinions, advancing forensic techniques, and evolving legal standards. The case reverberates through history, prompting us to consider how we judge guilt or innocence, and how we preserve fairness in a world shaped by sensational media coverage. Thank you for joining me in revisiting this deeply layered and complicated case. We have explored the life of Marilyn Sheppard, the fateful morning of July 4, 1954, the investigation that followed, the trial that captured national attention, and the profound impact on a community and the justice system. The story reminds us that the truth can be elusive and that justice, though strived for, is not always clear-cut. We don't forget to like and subscribe for more true crime stories we upload daily, and your support helps us continue bringing you well-researched, carefully crafted accounts of historical mysteries. If you found this case compelling, you might also want to explore other high-profile trials that question the integrity of media coverage and legal proceedings. such as the Lindbergh baby kidnapping trial or the Salem witch trials, as historical parallels in media frenzy and public perception. Share your thoughts in the comment section below, and do you believe the media influenced the outcome of Sam Sheppard's trial? Let's continue this conversation and delve deeper into the complex interplay of justice, truth, and public opinion.